Have you found that your concentration is lacking these days, that you're struggling to stay focused at work, or you're struggling to keep your mind in the conversation when you're spending time with friends and family? This video is going to look at 7 specific ways that you can train your consciousness so that you can develop your concentration. You can peak that concentration. So the way that this video is going to work is I'm going to run through all the exercises and why we're doing those exercises so you understand them. This isn't a guided meditation video. This is me explaining, here are some exercises for you to play with. Take notes, follow these exercises, practice as much as you can, and put it into the real world. So the way that we're going to be looking at these exercises is through high intensity training. So these HIIT training for the mind. And this is going to be short blasts of peak concentration. We're going to start off by just holding peak concentration for 30 seconds. And during that 30 seconds, you have to concentrate as if your life depends on it. So we're going to hold that peak concentration for 30 seconds. Then we're going to have a quick break and go back in another 30 seconds. Then over time, we want to start increasing that 30 seconds up to a minute. Then we push it up to 2 minutes. Then we go to 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. We keep increasing the length of time that we can concentrate for in each of these 7 different exercises. The key to really getting this development to focus is through a scientific approach. And what I mean by that is we need to know what's working and what's not working. And the way that you see that there is a linear improvement in your concentration is going to be through journaling your experiences. So while you're going through these 7 exercises, focus on journaling your experience. 30 seconds of peak experience. What brought you out? What held you in? How did it feel? Did you manage it? Now that you understand the method, let's go in and start looking at that first way of peaking our concentration. Okay, exercise number 1. We need to bring our consciousness outside of our head. So this means we need to focus on having our attention outside of our head. Now this is practiced in some meditations where they, for example, they focus on a burning incense stick. We want to have that ability to do that at any point. And we also want to activate our prefrontal cortex. So there's a specific way that we want to bring our mind or our consciousness outside of our body. And what I'd like you to do is, I want you to imagine that your mind is about 3 or 4 inches in front of your forehead. And I just want you to put this mind in this point, and it feels like you're releasing your mind and you're tending to this imaginary space. What this does is it starts to activate our prefrontal cortex because it brings our mind to the forefront of our brain. Write down the instructions and then 30 seconds, put the mind in front of the head. What does that feel like? Hold that feeling for 30 seconds. Focus that concentration for 30 seconds. Okay, exercise number 2. In this exercise, we want to start tuning into the frequency of concentration. There's a specific brain frequency of concentration, and we want to hold that frequency. Concentration isn't something that's forced. It's something that we release everything that is not in resonance with concentration. The easiest way to start to understand that is I want you to pick something where you get into a flow state, something where you get into a zone, with some type of hobby. Now, if you can pick something that is slightly dangerous, that is even better. So rock climbing, for example. Imagine that you're doing that hobby. Hold that feeling as if you're doing that hobby. If you want to combine it with the first exercise, imagine that you're doing it from in front of your head, so that it's like you're watching it on a screen in front of you, and start playing through that hobby. Can you hold that feeling for 30 seconds? Keep repeating, keep building it up until you can get to 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Then what we want to start doing as well is we want to take the feeling of being in flow state. So we don't just imagine that we're doing that exercise. We capture that feeling of being in flow, and we want to hold that feeling in our consciousness. We actually want to really hone in on this feeling of releasing into concentration, not forcing of concentration. So once you've understood and you've got that feeling of flow, and you've understood that through playing around with the imagination of your hobbies, take that feeling of flow, start to hold that feeling in front of the forehead, and anything that you feel is not in resonance with that feeling, let it go. Okay, exercise number 3. This exercise, we're going to start looking at the things that pull you out of concentration. So by this point, you should start to have a pretty robust journal about how you're going into concentration. And hopefully in that journal there's some mentions of the things that pulled you out. If not, don't worry, start to add that into your journaling. So now, understanding what pulls us out of concentration. Typically, it's going to be one of a few things. It's going to be one of our senses, something we see, something we can smell, taste, hear, feel on our skin. It could be muscular tension that we can feel, or pain of some description. It could be a recurring emotional thought. It could be thoughts in our head and stories that we keep playing to ourselves. So we want to start to understand, what are these patterns? Let's bring in that awareness of these things that bring us out of concentration. Once we understand what they are, now we can work on them. If it's a sound that keeps breaking my concentration, every time I'm in a pub chatting with my friends and I can hear a conversation from another table, it pulls my attention away from being in focus and in flow with my friends around the table that I'm sat at. We want to start looking at these things so that you know yourself and you know what brings you out of concentration. That will enable you to stay in concentration for longer, of course. So we start to improve our environment and we start to look at the specific things that we can change whilst we're practicing concentration. That's the first level, that improves our ability to practice. The next level is we want to start working on ourselves. I've noticed that it's always a sight that breaks my concentration. Something catches my eye and boom, I'm locked onto that and I've lost my concentration. So we want to incorporate this into our training. And we start to put in gentle distractions. So we start to push ourselves a little bit further. It's like going to the gym and putting more weight onto the machine. So we're meditating and we put a flickering light over in the corner and we try to keep our focus away from that. And we just observe what happens, 30 seconds. From there, we keep building on all of our senses. So we might start focusing on our ears. So we play some background noise and we hold our concentration whilst allowing that background noise to be and not interfere with our ability to stay in that flow state, that concentrated state. Keep developing this way. Then we want to start looking at the emotions. What emotions are pulling you out of concentration? What learning is there for you on that emotional level? Is there something that you need to work on emotionally so that you can, in general, improve your ability to be, your ability to stay focused, stay in flow, and stay present with the people around you? Then you want to start looking at life in general and the things that break you out of concentration. For example, is it dings and notifications and things on your mobile phone? That's a very common thing that brings people out of concentration. They hear their phone buzz and they hear that vibration and now they can't concentrate. They know they shouldn't go and look at their phone, but really half of the mind is now focused on wondering what that notification was all about. Step 4 is all about developing that frequency of release. So we know that concentration is not just about hard focus, it's about being released into the zone. So we want to start developing that frequency of release. We want to release anything our mind can perceive. So what do I mean by that? Firstly, we've started to understand the senses and our emotions and our thoughts and maybe even physical body that is starting to pull us away from that feeling of being in flow and that feeling of being concentrated. As you're practicing in your meditation, you just observe something. You bring the mind outside of the body and you hold that focus and you release. It's like taking something and just pulling it apart, letting it expand and letting it dissipate and letting it just go out into the air and get dissolved. So we're feeling that tension, we're releasing that tension. Then we start to hear a noise and we have an attachment to that noise. So we find that attachment and we release on the attachment to the noise. We just let it come out of the head and we just release it. We see some flickering light, we have an attachment to that. That's one of those things that brings me out of concentration. I find that feeling and I release that out into the air, dissolve it away. And we keep going. Any emotions, any thoughts, we find what is our attachment to it and we release on that. Physically releasing it outside of the body. We stretch our consciousness. So by now we're bringing our consciousness outside in front of our head so we can imagine that our consciousness is not trapped inside our head, it can be free to move, and we bring that thing that we need to release on out into the consciousness and then open it up and let it release. So step 5. In step 5 we start to combine all of the previous steps and we want to start switching our meditation object. So our first meditation object is this idea of focusing on the mind outside of the body, releasing everything. Then we start to add this new idea of releasing everything that is not in resonance with being in concentration, with being in that flow state, with being in the zone. Now we want to start playing with the two, and we want to start switching our meditation from focused on being in concentrated states to releasing everything that the mind can touch. Then we switch back, focus on being in concentration, release everything that the mind can touch, and we start to play with them both. We can do that in a 30-second meditation. We go into that meditation, we release everything. The mind touches nothing. Something will come in, you release on that. You feel like you've released, so you switch, you hold concentration. Bring the mind out, focus on that single pointed concentration, hold it. And you just start playing with the contrast between focusing and holding single pointed concentration and releasing. Okay, so step 6. Step 6 is one where we're actually going to start building the muscle of our concentration, the muscle of our mind. And this is going to really improve your ability. But this is a hard step now. This step is all about opening space, and it's the amount of space that your concentration can take. So I want you to think about a time when you have been in a room where you can feel the atmosphere. In that space, you can feel the emotion, you can feel the energy within the room, and everyone is feeling that, everyone is vibing with that. So we want to start expanding this feeling of concentration into a larger space. So we've been holding this feeling of having the mind in front of us. Now we want to start expanding our mind to fill the room that we're in. Expand the mind into that space. Now, when we're doing that, we want to make it tangible. And the easiest way of making it tangible is through our imagination. That's our first step, our doorway in. And when you're sat there and you're closing your eyes, I want you to imagine where the corners of the room are, the floor and on the ceiling. Imagine where the furniture is in the room. Start to think about all the objects that are in the room and start to just concentrate on being in that room. It's like your mind is wandering around the room whilst you're in meditation. This is training the mind. This is like weightlifting for the mind. It trains the ability to focus on something. But this step is all about expanding the awareness, opening up the mind, taking up more space. Once you've taken up a large amount of space, we can start to fill that space with the feeling of concentration. The same way when you walk into a room and there's somebody in there who just brings out their full personality and everyone in the room can feel it. You want to do the same with your concentration. So you're concentrating is not in your head. The whole room, the whole space is filled with that frequency of being in concentration. So our final step, step number 7, is about taking that into the real world. And hopefully during this time that you've been practicing this method, you've been journaling, you've been practicing it in the real world anyway, and you're starting to see some results. Here's an idea of something that you can play with. Go and organize for a time to have a conversation with a friend. Whilst you're having that conversation with your friend, I want you to expand your mind and hold that feeling of concentration around the table. So your mind is open and you're in flow in that space. So in that time, you're able to concentrate on the things that your friend is telling you. You're not too concentrated on the feeling of expanding the mind. This is what's going to make it really work for you, because you can start to fill that space with that concentration element, that concentration frequency. So in this time, you might even notice that your friend becomes more concentrated because they're also starting to become in resonance with that. They're starting to feel the concentration that you're putting into the atmosphere, and they're also coming into resonance with being in concentration. So here, this skill becomes very, very, very valuable, especially if you're at work, for example, you're going into a meeting and you want everyone to be very focused in that meeting. You fill that space with your feeling of concentration. Observe that the people who come into the meeting room will fall into resonance with that as well, and you'll start to see that they start to concentrate even better. Your own concentration is going to improve the people around you so that they concentrate a lot better. Have you ever noticed that you've gone to maybe a meditation class and there's some very experienced people in that room, very experienced meditators? All of a sudden it becomes much easier for you to meditate. It's because they're filling that space with that meditation frequency.